Within the past year, I've lost three important people in my life. I lost my mother-in-law, Pat Moran, who passed away. I lost a fellow teammate from high school and from college who played here at CBC, Tiger Haig. And I want to dedicate a lot of this to them. And then last but not least, I lost, as we know him, as Jolton Joe and Coach Nate. Coach was great. He's a great man. As I mentioned earlier when I said I'll reference back to Hawaii, when Nate used to come out to CBHS and our games when he was recruiting me, that was his recruiting tool. We're gonna go to Hawaii. We're gonna go to Hawaii and just go. This is great. Okay, all right. So I came and we go, and lo and behold, 4 years after I left, they went to Hawaii. And I guess I never said, when are you going to Hawaii? He just said, we're going to Hawaii. So we never made it there. But he was a wonderful man to play for. He had leniencies with us. He would let us have a good time, and he stayed stern with us. He was the father figure. He did allow us, on our spring trips, he took care of us. We would go to New Orleans, we'd go to Florida. He'd have a late curfew for us, and he just let us have a good time. So I got to work with him on the baseball field, the butt field that he built. We built the big monster wall in the outfield. We had the basketball players and the Knights of Columbus. We had an incredible fan base that were out in the left field consuming some beverages out there and having a good old time, and very supportive. But we missed Nate. Actually, I think we're guilty for putting a few pounds on Nate in those days, because when we're playing well, when Nate got nervous, he ate. So we were playing well, so he was eating a lot. But the one thing we never could figure out is how those ankles supported him. It's still a mystery.
Coach Nettisburn was here when I was here, and one of the fond memories I did have with him while I was here, and Coach Murphy will be able to attest to this, is one of the things the stories that made me really laugh about him was a blockout drill that we used to do. And for people who don't play basketball, I'm going to keep this really short. You get to the free throw line and you block out like this, and you're supposed to keep your hands up like this. Well, Coach Nate would say, while the referee's watching this hand, nobody was watching this hand, so he wanted you to do this when you step into the lane. Okay? So, and I don't know if you guys know if it works or not, but it works. I'm going to miss him. Even after I left, I still got in contact with him. We talked once or twice, but one thing I can say about him is he always made me laugh, and he always made me smile. I'd like to thank Coach Leonard for giving me the opportunity, coming one day and saying, hey, would you like to play for Christian Brothers University? And I'll tell you my recruitment story, since everybody has a great story. I'll tell that story. I was at Craigmont. It was coming. I was one of the top players in Memphis at the time. And Coach Leonard came to my house. My mother was there, and he was sitting on my couch, and he said, hey, we're interested in Ken. We would like him to come play. What do you think? And I was like, well, yeah, I want to, but I'm not sure. This was the first college that ever approached me. And I got plenty of recruitment letters, but this was the first coach that actually came and talked to me. Well, as him and my mother wrapped up their conversation, I was doing something else. I can't remember. I was in high school. And I came back. My mom said this, hey, you see that guy that was here just a minute ago? I was like, yeah. She's like, he's going to have a piece of paper in his hand when you come to school. I'm going to need you to sign that. I signed it. It was a full scholarship, which I thank to this day for getting my degree and helping me get through school, because we are, first and foremost, we were student athletes.
Our athletic director was Brother Stevens, and he occasionally went with the team on road trips. Since we had a trip scheduled for Louisiana that week, Brother Stevens decided to go with us. Brother made all the travel arrangements, and our mode of transportation was 3 automobiles, either rented or loaned by students at the school. So we packed up those 3 autos and off we went. Coach was driving the lead car, and Brother Stephen bringing up the rear. Unknown to us was a notorious speed trap in Jenna, Louisiana. They nailed old Coach first. It's bad enough you get a speeding ticket, but then be escorted to the Jenna courthouse 12 miles away. to face a judge who would determine the amount of the fine and the court costs. The only payment he was going to accept was cash. So somehow Coach scraped up enough cash and got out of there. Coming along a few minutes later, brother was also clocked. And off to the Jenna courthouse we go again. Observing brother's attire, black suit and a white collar, the judge ruled, Brother Stevens, we do not give preachers tickets in Jenna. Your fines have been dismissed and you're free to go. And needless to say, we did not go through Jenna, Louisiana on the way back home. Thank you.
To my teammates, obviously what we all did on the field, we couldn't have done without one another. The second season in particular, I think we all knew we had a common goal, and we all did whatever was our part in making that come true. But also for embracing me not only as a teammate, but also as a friend. Super Scott Lambert, our trainer. I spent more time with him than probably anyone else during my time here, and I thank you for being there for me when my knees were not. So, possibly our number one fan, Tom Burke, who was at every game. He wasn't every game, he traveled everywhere. He was practically a member of the team. I am amazed when I look back at how quickly he was able to drop classes for me and change my major. So, thank you to all you have done then, and I'm grateful that he's a man I call a very good friend today. To the psychology department, where, just to be clear, I was pursuing my undergraduate degree and not receiving treatment. I had some very excellent professors who had a big impact on me. Dr. Rod Vogel, took many classes from him, and he was always wonderful. And a special thank you to Dr. Tracy Burke, who's here today wearing a Missy Gregg jersey. Yeah, not a lot of those around. Yep. She was always willing to work with me around injuries, around travel, around various other pretty lame excuses. But she was always my favorite teacher, and one of the reasons is that she always held me accountable and always didn't just expect me to be the soccer player who happened to be a student too, but expected, I think, as much of me as a student as people expected me to do as an athlete. And when I decided to become a teacher, a high school teacher, she has been the model of the type of teacher that I want to be. So I always remember she kind of said, it's my class, it's my show, and I agree. It was your show, and I tried to make it my show. So thank you for that. And a special thank you to my wife and fellow inductee, Margaret Magsoren. She's my teammate, my confidant, my best friend, occasional rival, and the love of my life. We came together at CBU. She's the best soccer player I've ever seen or played with. She pushed me to be my best, and it's just so extra special to get to share this honor with her tonight. And you actually owe your NCAA assist records to me, so you're welcome. Love you.
I've coached for about 45 years now, and I can honestly tell you that my time at Christian Brothers, and professionally and in coaching, was as happy as I have ever been. And I'll tell you why. First of all, because there are terrific people here. When I think back about Brother Cy, Bob Stevenson, of course, Mike Martin, the list goes on, and of course the brothers. That's one reason that this was such a terrific place, for sure. Another reason was the outstanding student athletes that that I came in contact with, and I'll talk about them in just a moment. But the third reason was the way that you do intercollegiate athletics here. And that is, there's such a great balance in academics and athletics, and it's not true everywhere. I really like the fact that the priority here was graduation, and that a diploma was the game changer. That's the most important thing, and I really appreciated that about this place. I mentioned the student athletes that I worked with. These guys were terrific. I think when you get right down to where the rubber meets the road, I'm standing here tonight because of a bunch of guys like seated at table, whatever that is. You guys raise your hands. Raise your hands, guys. That was to this day, I can't honestly tell you that that's the most talented basketball team I've ever been around, but it was the best team I've ever been around. And I've done this for 46 years, as I said. So I love these guys. I really, really do appreciate them being here this evening. Finally, I was really blessed to have a mentor that all of you know, and that's Bob Stevenson. Bob couldn't be here this evening. He's a little under the weather. But he recruited me to the University of Memphis State at the time, and then hired me here at Christian Brothers. And simply put, in my professional life, he is the best man I have ever been around. And I think the world of him, and I thank him, and I thank all of you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
The relation between Andres Martinez and the city of Memphis begins in 1984. With 3 goals in mind, I wanted to learn English, I wanted to make friends, and I wanted to play baseball. So I submitted my application to become an exchange student in the United States. Shortly after, I got a notification that I was going to be received from a family in Germantown, Tennessee. So 30 years ago, we didn't have Google, we didn't have internet. I looked it up in the map and I didn't find it. So I panicked. You know, I picked up the telephone and called my host-to-be family, and I asked a few questions. And when they mentioned Memphis, I connected Memphis to Elvis, and I said, I'll be fine. Since my mind was set back in Mexico, where I come from, I had already been accepted to college in Tecnológico de Monterrey. I desestimated the invitation then, so I went back to Mexico. In the summer of '86, I got the chance to be a fan during the World Cup in Mexico City. And then I made a trip to Houston, Texas, where I was at the Major League Baseball All-Stars game to watch Fernando Valenzuela and Teodoro Higuera pitch. And then I came to Memphis to visit some good friends. And then was when I ran into Joe Nixburn at the grocery store. And he asked me, so what are you playing for? Meaning university and meaning baseball. So I said, nobody. What do you mean nobody? Well, I'm going to college in Mexico and we don't have a baseball team. I'm playing soccer there. So he invited me to come to his office the next day, which I did. And after having a conversation, and he spoke highly about Christian Brothers University's high educational standards and his baseball program, which he loved very much. I gave it a thought. I called my father in Mexico, and he was very supportive. He said, whichever decision you make, I'll stand for it. So that's how I ended up coming to CBU. I played 3 years of soccer and 3 years of baseball. I wish I had played 4 because I had such a good time. And once I stepped on CBC campus, I ran into Richard Wood, my good friend for life. You know, he knew me from high school, and he said, "Well, why don't you play soccer for me?" But we had to do some negotiation with Joe. because he was the guy with the money at the time, and he allowed me to play soccer also as well, where I met some great friends. Some of them are here. Gracias for being here. Thank you. And we had a wonderful time. We had an excellent team, and it was all due to Richard's discipline and his authority on the field. It was very noticeable. I want to thank many people. Coach was not only coach for soccer, but also for life, a good friend. And just as I told everyone then, I repeat now, you have a friend in Tampico, Mexico. Mi casa es su casa. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It's really a special day, and I'm privileged to be here. I got a call from Coach Nate last year about this, and for once in my life I was speechless. I really feel honored to have been held in such high regard by him. He's a gentleman. I've always called him a one-off. I'll never meet anybody like him in my life again, and I want to thank him for this opportunity. I also want to thank a coach and friend, longtime friend, Gareth O'Sullivan. He offered me the opportunity to do a master's degree and play soccer. I never would have thought of doing a master's degree. I was a soccer player first back then. CBU changed me. But he put a group of really gifted players together, and he knew we could win it all. When in 2001 he said, we're going to win it all. And because of that vision, it fueled us all. And lo and behold, we ended up winning. So he called to say congrats and how proud he was of all of us here today. He's a class act, and I respect him, and anyone that knows him will know. Cheers, Salih. I have a couple of stories that I'm just going to share just about our teammates. We beat the University of Memphis twice in 01 and 02. So if you're a University of Memphis fan, I apologize, but where I come from, if there's a university just down the road from you, it's a rivalry. It's a derby game, as we call it back home. And I remember Missy scoring a toe-poke goal that just went between the goalkeeper's legs, nutmeg, as we call it in soccer, to win the game, and then going into the sororities and fraternities and celebrating. That was awesome. I remember Jessica Hester scoring in a game that took us to the national, the finals, the Final Four. Remember that? I remember our very bashful Scandinavian players. We had a drug test, random drug test, and it took about 3 hours. Because if any of you know Scandinavian players or people, they're very bashful, and it took them 3 hours just to get through the drug test. I remember, and I don't know if any of you know Benny Hill, but if any of you know Benny Hill, there was a Benny Hill chase when Ashley Newburn against Central Arkansas ended up getting chased by a Central Arkansas player. We all ended up chasing her around trying to save her, with about 4 or 5 people just running around in circles in the middle of a field, while one of the Rask twins was actually running up the sideline and put the ball in the back of the net for a goal. Nobody knew what happened. Everybody's watching this Benny Hill chase. So I don't know if that goal counted even. So as a college coach, I'm asked about our national championship all the time. The conversation usually goes like this. Where did you play? CBU. What years? 01, 02. Oh, you played with Missy Gregg. So it happens all the time. There was one time I was asked to present in front of the Indiana High School Coaches Association convention in front of a lot of people, and I spent about 45 minutes presenting PowerPoint, which I learned at CBU, thank you. And I thought it went really well, and I opened it for questions. The first question that was asked was, what was it like to play with Missy Gregg? You'll notice that I always have well-polished shoes, because I'm always flying on her coattails. But I am worried for her now, and I'll tell you this. With this induction, I think I'm going to get a lot of notoriety, a lot of press. And I feel like you're not ready to answer those types of questions. So I actually got you a little something. If you wouldn't mind just looking under your chair and pulling something. It's stuck to the bottom of your chair. I think this is going to help you get through this. I'd like you to put it on.